How's it going? So, I just feel I'm supposed to record a message and I don't really know what it is. So, I'm going to record something. And here it is. I haven't recorded anything in a few weeks. I've been quite busy. I had a breathwork ceremony in Dundary House a few weeks back, which was quite powerful, and I had a medicine ceremony a week after that. I've had two medicine ceremonies in about 2 months, and I'll have another one, the last one of this year, this coming Saturday, which will be, today is about the 3rd of December, so something like that, whatever that date means to you, whenever this video gets finally up. I think I'm going to talk about the dragon and the snake, and then that will lead on to the work that I've been doing in transmuting dark energy and work with someone else, with Valerie, clearing energy from the land. 2 or 3 months back, in an energy session with a woman, purged a snake, and this had not happened before. I was not aware of this, but when I'm working with people, I can tend to start purging. So it's a release of energy through the chest, through the throat, and it can result in actually vomiting, but sometimes, mostly 90 odd percent of the time, it's just energy. It's a roaring of energy that would come up through the chest. So that energy can be purging that energy from another person or from myself, or combined energy. And at this time I was aware, eyes closed, doing a remote energy session with this woman, that a snake was working its way out my mouth. So it was coming out head first and then the body. And, eyes closed, I was aware of this. This obviously is not literal. It was not an actual 3D physical snake, but it was the awareness of an energetic snake coming out my mouth. So I was shocked in the moment. I couldn't believe it. Didn't know what this meant, what was happening. And I paused for a second, and I got kind of shocked, and then I went back into the energy session. I went back into the work and carried on. But then I saw, in my mind's eye, I saw the belly of a pregnant snake and eggs, and in that instant I began to purge very heavily, and I vomited. I was covered in sweat. It was extremely energetic, let's say. There was a lot of battling. There was a lot coming up. Not in the contents of my stomach. Just a lot of energy and power, coming through the body, being released through the body. So that's the opening. And a few days later, in a follow-up session, which I would do about 3 days after with a person, in the follow-up session, I saw the tail end of the snake come out my mouth. And then I began to become aware what the snake represents, and that the snake is, some say, ancient wisdom, and Lilith from the Garden of Eden, and so on and so forth. I don't really get into these things. There's so many ideas out there and theories that I tend to just let information either come to me or come through me, rather than go and reading books. It's just not my thing on this stuff. It just hasn't grabbed me. It's like I'll find my own way. I have my experience, and my experience is more important to me than the potential facts or understandings or statistics and so on. And when I build a relationship with the snake, that can't be put into words, and it's not found in a book. So, with this woman, I was very aware that the snake was released, was born with this woman. So this is specific to this person. This is important. And then, as I would work with other people, I began to see a rainbow coloured snake, which I think I was told is the Mexican divine feminine. That's what it means, but it is what it is. So I would see that swim through the chakras of people that I'm working with. Not always, and at different times, and sometimes more than once. So in working with them, I would be, to coin a phrase from Valerie, passing the snake. Now, passing the snake can take a number of forms. It can be through remote healing. It can be through physical contact, or physical healing, or intimacy, or whatever work is required with that person in that moment. I don't have any control over how the snake is passed, or who it's passed to, and I also don't have any control over who works with me. So some people are called to work with me and some are not. My understanding of passing the snake is that the snake is mother. The snake is the divine feminine, which can be shown in different forms, like as a woman or a goddess or as a dragon. So my understanding in this instance of the passing of the snake is that the snake works within us and clears our chakras and clears energy from us, helps guide us. You know, it becomes a part of us, helps direct us. In King Arthur, this year's King Arthur that Guy Ritchie directed, in King Arthur there is what could be described as a shaman or a witch or a medicine woman who works with King Arthur, and she holds his hand, and a snake passes down her arm and up his arm and around his neck and bites his neck. And she says, "Stay with me." So the snake is working with him. Now, Arthur was raised in a brothel. Arthur has respect for the feminine, for women, and he has a fairness about him. He in a sense is a king, an uncrowned king. He's a fair man and a wise man. And I think it's his uncle, who's a dark king, who has no respect for the people or for women, the feminine, is the king and is kind of ruling the land and so on. So the feminine mother, the snake, is working through Arthur and others to overthrow this destructive masculine energy, this out of control dark masculine energy. And there's more with the snake in that film. I won't go on into that. I could go on and on of examples from myself and people I work with about snakes appearing literally in one person's home. Hello, B. To, oh God, just books appearing with a snake on the cover of it. One person got on a train after the retreat and there was a guy reading a book with a snake on it. Another person went to a cafe and she sat down and there was a book called 9 Dragons on her right, and there's a book under the table on the floor, and she turned the book over and there's a picture of a snake on the cover of the book. So there's 1 or 2 or 3 of these. I'll gladly buy into the whole coincidence of stuff, but this is daily now. Every day someone or a few of us would find and come across snakes or dragons. So dragons. I became aware that some of the women I'm working with are what's called dragon queens. As you've seen on my website, perhaps there's a page for divine feminine work, and some women I work with are called queens. And then some women began to be presented that were called dragon queens, and I didn't know what this meant. And dragons began to present themselves. And then in a medicine ceremony a few weeks back, my experience was a dragon was birthed in that ceremony, in that room. So you can go away and research what a dragon means and so on and so forth. So I don't know. It's we have our own theories and ideas of what's happening, but we're just trusting the process that this is purposeful and we're being guided and led, and so far what's happening is beneficial for people. It's a raising of energy. So it's very easy for people to say, "Oh, I'm of the light and I work with the light," and blah blah blah. We don't really know. Things could turn nasty. So that's mine. Now other people I work with might say, "Oh, it is light," but for me it's like, okay, I feel I've nothing to lose anyway. I'll kind of keep going and get my experience, and my experience so far and with those around me is positive. So I'll keep going with that. I have no issue with it. It's an internal memory, an ancient memory. Then a few weeks back, I had an experience in a sauna. There's an article on my website about meditating in a sauna, and that was my discreet way of not giving away information of what I actually do in saunas and steam rooms, which is meditate and channel or connect to Mother. So in the intensity of a sauna, one, it would remind me of the mystery schools of Egypt, or meditating, doing spiritual practices under a pyramid perhaps, or in that intense heat. and that intense heat forces us into a focus. Like the body goes bananas, it's too much, so we have to get out of there, or we have to train the mind to be still, to be totally still and present, and to observe and allow the body to go bananas, and then the body settles down, and then we're in a higher state of consciousness. And then I could connect and get guidance from Mother, or from my guides, or from wherever. But I didn't put that in the article. So I just suggested, hey, it might be interesting to meditate in a sauna. So there you go. So a few weeks back, meditating in a sauna Saturday morning, and it was Saturday morning, there was no one in there. I mean, there was nobody in there. There was nobody in the sauna or the steam room. Had the place to myself for about an hour. And after a few minutes, the light outside clicks off. It's one of those timer things. So if the light clicks on, I know someone has come in. So I sit and I close my eyes, and I will notice, even with the eyes closed, if the light goes on, if someone comes in. So I feel that energy rise in my chest, and I know I'm going to purge. So I know there's energy being released up through the chest, solar plexus, chest, and up out the throat. Sometimes it's noisy, sometimes I can control it, and it can be kind of quiet. It can just be a force. In those moments, I experienced myself being born as a dragon, being birthed. Feels like the right word, I don't know why. Being birthed as a dragon. So that's the journey I went through in the space of maybe 10-15 minutes in a sauna, and felt like a young dragon that needed rest, needed to sleep, just being born, alien. And that night I went into an ayahuasca ceremony, and I spent the night as a dragon. I experienced myself as a dragon for that night. And in that night, as has happened in recent ceremonies, dark energy, what has happened to me in a breath work and happened to me now in ayahuasca ceremonies, what seems to be my role is that dark energy is sent to me to transmute, me and others I work with. So we have a vibration, or we have a strength or an experience or a light from a higher self perspective, that the biggest, darkest things are called in to be faced, or perhaps they're drawn into us, perhaps to feed. I don't know. They're presented. So I would have moments where I would sit up and they would be before me. There was one reptilian, there was some sort of spider-like being, and I'm not going to go into the gory details because they are gory, but these things feed off traumatic, dark energy, off lower vibrationary fear, anger. So in our 3D world, they feed off war. So war, abuse, rape, invasion, the destruction of civilizations and bombing of countries and cities and so on. And the destruction, if you like, of the feminine aspect in these places stops the feminine energy. This is my understanding, but there are others who could explain it better than me. Stops the divine feminine from gathering, because it's being slaughtered and raped and literally hacked up into pieces and scattered. So how do you undo that? You undo it by drawing in or attracting, trapping, catching, inviting the dark, enormous entities that gorge themselves and feed upon the slaughter of many children and women. And men, but for me it seems to be children and women. So there'd be a lot of paedophile energy, rape energy, and so on and so forth. So I'm very aware that's very sickening. It can be very aggressive. It's very powerful. But it's like an addiction that they need more, and then they need more, and they need more. And thus we have more wars and more undercover paedophile connections in politics, political groups all over the world, the royalty, the UN, humans disappearing, human trafficking, and so on. You can Google all that stuff. So these entities would be presented to me, and I would communicate with them and offer to either that they could come and work with us, that I would have total respect for them. They're powerful beings. They are God. They are of God's light, who have just taken a different path and do different work. So they're not bad or evil, although they are the terms that we as humans would tend to use. So I would offer them to come and work with us, or they would be destroyed, because I'm aware of the dragon energy and how powerful it is, not just me, but of the other dragons and snake energy which is now on this planet and being born on this planet, if this planet exists. I have to always put that in. So I would work with them, and I would offer them one or the other. And they'll be happy to give in, and if they give in, surrender's the wrong word. If they're willing to work with us, I would then have to transmute I would take on their darkness and that feeding upon dark energy. It would literally be poured in down my throat, poured into me, or awaken within me, and then my light energy would transmute that and purge it, release it, convert it into light. And some cases I would offer, you don't have to do this now, you can think about it, but you will not survive. This is the new world, this is different energy. That's what's been happening. And that's what's happening in my work. And then I would be doing work with the woman called Valerie. And Valerie, I have a video on my site, I think it's called Encountering Past Lives. Valerie was my partner, my wife, my daughter, in multiple previous lifetimes. And maybe my husband, maybe I was the wife. I'm not sure. I think so. I know I was a woman. I did work with men in a previous life or previous lives. But the two of us would be going to various places and guided to different parts so far in Ireland to do work, to clear energy from sacred sites. And this would be in relation to the divine feminine or mother, to release that trauma that has been trapped. But our understanding is that in one site, myself and Valerie were there 5,000-ish years ago, and we disconnected the energy from that site because we knew what was coming. We knew that the masculine was taking over. The dark forces had to take over. And we were going to work with the dark forces. We were going to trap them in a sense and work with them. That's why I did a lot of the dark things that I've done in previous lives, to gather and collect that darkness, to then transmute it and not allow it to run riot. So our memories are that we closed up this cairn, this sacred site, and disconnected it energetically. And last Thursday we found ourselves back at this site where we got this memory and we reconnected this energy. So it was a feeling of coming full circle after 5,000 years back to this place in Ireland and reconnecting that divine feminine energy. So the work that we're doing now, that's a taste of it, and my understanding of where this is going. We're just two people, and there are other people I do energy work with who are embracing this and who are becoming this and remembering this. But then obviously there are people all over the planet who are doing whatever work they're doing. So it's the feminine, the grid reconnecting. It's these sacred sites being plugged in again and reconnected because it's safe now, because it's ready to come back and it's ready to clear this planet. But keep in mind that that dark energy ultimately is not bad or evil or wrong. It's another God. It's another way of God expressing itself. This is part of the game. This is part of the where's it going to take us, what's going to happen. So if I've touched upon my work before, that part of my role in a previous life or lives was to destroy people I worked with. It was, and the word that was given to me in a medicine ceremony was to annihilate them. And, some people will hear that and they'll think, oh my God, that's scary. He's a scary man. And perhaps I probably was. But it was to entrap dark energy. So if we of the light engage in these darker processes, we draw in the dark, as Valerie calls them, the piranhas. These things have to feed, and they will feed up upon these darker energies, these lower vibrations in humans. So if us of the light draw these in, some people will be destroyed by that. And remember, we've forgotten who we are. We come in through the veil. We don't know who we are. We don't remember that we're doing this work intentionally. But from a contractual level, before we come in, we know what the purpose is. It's programmed in, it's coded into us to get involved in this work, to fully expand and explore this darkness. And my role was to destroy, to annihilate many, what I'm aware of, many women. And these were women that I worked with previously and work with on the other side of the veil. So they contracted with me. It was an agreement between all of us. So in a sense, it wasn't really annihilate. From a human perspective, it may have been to annihilate. But this supposed annihilation was a window, a void, to allow in all that depression and depravity and destruction and rage and all that stuff. All those feeders that wanted a piece of that action. So we draw them all in. And then comes Mother. Then comes the birthing of the dragon and the snake. Then comes the remembrance of the light and this power to transmute and to face these things. And I've attended 13 ayahuasca ceremonies and I can't remember, around 10 breathwork ceremonies. They're all very similar for me. And in almost all of them, if not all of them, I would encounter demons, for want of a better word, dark energy and dark entities and beings, be they my own. In the early days, a lot were my own that I needed to face and to clear out and to make peace with, because they are me. They've been drawn in by me. I've contracted with them and engaged with them to work together. So to transmute them and release them into light and into love, or to go and do their thing wherever else they want to do it, because they ain't doing it here. That has then evolved into transmuting greater stuff on a, I don't want to say global scale, but on a local scale or a group scale or a land scale or whatever is presented to me that I don't fully understand. I suppose from an optimistic perspective, that's what I'm doing and that's what people I know are doing. And I've no idea what, I've no doubt that there are many others around the planet that are doing this. But I'm aware that even in the last days or couple of weeks, things are moving very quickly. And that's part of my own work, and part of my work with Valerie is to allow in and confront this darkness and transmute it. The darkness between men and women, the abuse, the sexual abuse or trauma or violence or whatever, all the ugly stuff. That's what we do at the moment. And I'm sure that'll evolve into something else. But it's to purge that and release that, transmute it from the planet, from the war zones and from the psyche of woman and mankind that's burned in, that we carry in our DNA and in our memory, our memory of trauma from previous lives, because we did it and it was done to us. It's not them over there. So Harvey Weinstein is not him over there. It's me. I did those things. It's in my makeup. We're the same person, we're the same energy. And I received it too. I was the women he abused. I was the children that were abused by paedophiles, and I was the paedophile, I was the killer, I was all these dark things. We all were. It's in us. So it's making peace with that. And what transmutes it really is love, is that understanding and that peace. So the rage or anger at these dark forces only empowers them. That's exactly what they want, and that's exactly what they feed off. So knowing that the rage and anger we have at these people, or the sex scandals or whatever you want to call it that's coming out, that's our own fear. That's people who are out of control, who feel a lack of control in the situation. In defending themselves, they resort to anger, which anger is just fear because they don't know what to do. When we inhabit and connect to and step into our own power, when we fully know who we are and the power that we have, there's no need to be afraid, because I know that I am greater than these dark forces. I know that I am surrounded by great light and great power, and I know that in an instant we could annihilate these dark forces. So I have no fear. And if any darkness was to come, or if I was to be destroyed, so be it. That's life. It's all God. It's all part of evolution. So, as of this moment, I just have strength. I just feel power. So that's what these beings don't really confront. They're not used to. They're used to frightened humans and angry humans and reactive energy, which just makes them stronger. So to wrap up, that's just an insight into what's happening. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know why I'm putting it out there. I just feel it needed to be spoken about, but that's what's happening. I hope it's of interest. I hope it's of use. So to finish up, I suppose I'd say that I've got to this point through, there's been many lifetimes of work to get to where I am, but a big part, you're probably sick to death of me saying this, but a big part of me getting to where I am is that observation and stillness. For those of you who know, I live in my car, and I could go out and get a full-time job, and I could pay extortionate rents in Dublin, in Ireland, and be frazzled by some shit job that I don't want, to live in a place I don't want to live in. But in living in my car has granted me the free time to process and to be still and to meditate and to contemplate and to work and to see, to observe myself and my reactions and what's happening. And it's purposeful and it's going somewhere, and it won't be for forever. So I would encourage everyone to be still and to try and turn off your television or the radio, and grant yourself a few moments or a few minutes a day just to be still and to observe and to maybe be in nature or be present, be in your body. Just be in your body. It doesn't have to be an active meditation, a guided meditation or a yoga class, or it's to do absolutely nothing and create that void of stillness, that you are paying attention and that you're willing to work. You're willing to know something, who you are, or to get some sort of guidance or insight. And it might be huge and it might be in that moment, or it might not. It might just be subtle guidance or subtle intuition. That's all you need. That's all it is. So thanks for listening. I hope it was of use. I'll be back soon.